I let them use my hose during a drought. The next week, I got a $600 water bill. I asked if they'd been running it overnight. He said, "It's just water. Relax." I installed a meter lock. The morning after, my faucet was ripped out of the wall, and a dead bird was left in my mailbox. I live in a small town near Fresno. It's dry, hot, and nobody moves here for the weather. We get real summers, weeks straight over 100, no clouds, no rain. Last year, they officially declared a drought emergency. The city started mailing out rules. No lawn watering during the day, no washing cars, no filling pools. You could even get fined if they caught you wasting water. I live alone. Small house, small yard. I cut back early, turned off my sprinklers, let the lawn die, started using rinse water from dishes to keep my tomato plant alive. I was doing what everyone else was supposed to be doing. Then Brandon and Megan moved in next door.
They were new to town.
Late 20s or maybe early 30s. She worked from home, I think. He didn't seem to work much at all. He always had friends over. Always had music going. Their yard was bigger than mine, and within a week, they had a big inflatable pool set up for their 2 dogs, plus a bunch of new grass sod laid down in the back. It wasn't long after they moved in that Megan came over one afternoon. She knocked on my door, smiled, and asked if they could use my hose just once to fill up the dog's pool. She said their plumber hadn't come out yet and their back spigot wasn't working. She promised it would only be for an hour, tops. I said yes. She was nice, and I figured I'd want help someday, too. That was a Wednesday. By Friday, I was hearing water run outside after midnight. I got up one night to check, and sure enough, my hose was connected and water was running full blast toward their yard. Their gate was open, and I could see the pool lit up from their porch light. I didn't say anything. I just turned off the faucet. The next day, it was hooked up again. This went on for days. Sometimes I'd disconnect it, and within an hour, it would be back on. One night, I turned it off, and the next morning there was a note taped to my door. "If you didn't want to share, you should have said so. Don't be weird." No name on it. I finally got my water bill the following week. $612.47. I called the city thinking it was a mistake. They said it wasn't. My meter showed usage more than 6 times my usual for the month. I asked them what I could do, and they told me to check for leaks and maybe get a lock for my outdoor valve. I was mad, but I figured I'd try to be civil before escalating. I walked next door, bill in hand. Brandon answered the door shirtless with a beer in his hand and an empty stare like he'd been watching football for 5 straight hours. I held up the bill and said, "Hey, I need to ask, have you been using my water a lot more than you said? This bill is insane." He looked at the paper, shrugged, and said, "It's just water. Relax." Then he turned around and closed the door. No apology. No explanation. I stood there a full minute before walking home. That night I went online and ordered a brass meter lock. It cost about $40, and I had it installed 2 days later. I also bought a small outdoor camera and tucked it up under the garage eave, aimed right at the spigot. The night after I put the lock on, everything was quiet. But the next morning, I came out and saw the damage. My front faucet was gone. Not just the hose, the entire faucet ripped out of the wall. Pipes exposed. Water was still trickling out, and there was a wet trail leading all the way down my driveway. Then I checked the mailbox. Inside, wrapped in a crumpled fast food napkin, was a dead bird. Not injured, not recently dead. It looked like it had been frozen or kept somewhere cold. Someone placed it in there on purpose. That's when I stopped being nice. I took the dead bird out of the mailbox and wrapped it in another bag before throwing it out. I didn't call the police. I knew what they'd say. No proof. Just keep an eye out, and maybe they'd drive by once in a while. But I had the camera. I pulled the footage from the night before. It only caught part of it, someone in a hoodie crouching near the faucet around 2:13 a.m. They had gloves on. No face visible. But I could see the wrench in their hand, and I could see how fast they worked. Less than 3 minutes, and the faucet was gone. I couldn't prove it was Brandon. But who else would do that? I saved the video and made copies. Then I did 2 things. First, I went to Home Depot and bought a heavy-duty cage cover meant for outside faucets, the kind they use at schools and public parks. I bolted it to the brick with concrete anchors. Then I set up a second camera, low to the ground, hidden behind a garden rock. Second, I called a plumber to cap off the exposed pipe. When he showed up and saw the damage, he looked at me and said, "Someone really wanted that water, huh?"
Yeah.
That night, I stayed up. I didn't turn on any lights. I just sat in my living room near the window with the curtains cracked. At 1:47 a.m., I saw a flashlight beam. Whoever it was walked straight up to the faucet cage, tried it, and then left.
No damage this time. Just testing it, maybe.
But the next morning, my car had a long key scratch down the driver's side door. That's when I filed a police report. I showed them the footage, the scratch, the mailbox bird. They said they'd make a note of it. A week went by. Then another. Things got quiet again. No more damage. No more dead animals. I thought maybe it was over. But then one Thursday morning, I heard tires on gravel and stepped outside. Brandon was standing at the edge of my driveway, staring at the new faucet cage. He had a smirk on his face, like he was trying to figure out if he could get away with laughing. He said, "You really think all that's gonna stop someone who wants it bad enough?" I didn't answer. He turned and walked back to his truck. That night, someone tried to break into my garage. The motion light caught them. They ran off, but they left behind a screwdriver wedged in the side door. This time, I went further. I got a quote from a private security company. $600 for a full motion-activated system with audio. I paid it. I also printed off photos of the vandalism, the scratched car, the mailbox bird, and taped them to my front window, just big enough for them to see if they walked by. I didn't put any names. I didn't have to. That weekend, Megan came by. She looked nervous. She stood at the edge of my porch and said, "Brandon gets carried away sometimes." I didn't know it was this bad. I said, "He's not just carried away. He's unstable." She didn't deny it. She just looked down and said, "I'll talk to him." But nothing changed. 2 days after Megan came over, I found a note taped to my back gate. It just said, "Snitches get faucets ripped." I didn't call the cops this time. I knew they wouldn't do anything unless I caught him in the act. So I went the other way. I printed that note. I took it, along with still frames from my security cameras, the one of the hooded figure with the wrench, the one of the guy testing the cage, and the shot of the car scratch, and I mailed them to Brandon and Megan in a plain envelope. No return address. The next morning, his truck was gone.
So was she.
By the end of the week, a different car was in their driveway. Her sister's, I think. She must have left him. It got quiet for a bit. Really quiet. Until 2 weeks later, when I woke up to a police cruiser outside my house. The officer told me someone had made an anonymous call claiming I had illegal surveillance on the neighborhood. Said I was recording people without permission and possibly harassing neighbors. Total crap. I showed them my permits, my posted signs, my front yard camera stickers, everything legal. I kept calm, but inside I knew exactly who made that call. And I knew they were trying to bait me into messing up. So, I made another choice. I stopped hiding. I took all the photos, all the evidence, and made a simple website. Just a one-pager with dates, pictures, and what happened. I left out names but not details. I posted it in the local Facebook community group, just saying, "If someone else has had similar issues, message me." I got 5 replies in 2 days. One said their hose was stolen. Another said their AC pipe was cut. 2 others had vandalism reports. All within the past 6 months. All on the same street. One woman said she'd seen Brandon late at night walking around other people's yards. It wasn't just me. So, I met with them. Quietly. We shared our notes. And we decided we'd had enough. We wrote a joint complaint and took it to the property manager. Turns out the house Brandon and Megan were renting? It was owned by a company 2 towns over. The manager didn't know about any of this. We showed him the website. He looked genuinely alarmed. 3 weeks later, Brandon was evicted for violation of lease terms. I heard he didn't take it well. Police had to show up. He broke the door on the way out. But he was gone. Sometimes I still check the mailbox a little slower than I used to. Not because I think he'll come back. Just because now I know what people are capable of, even over something as small as a garden hose. And I hate that it took all of this to finally believe my instincts were right the first time.